All right, if you're anywhere near the Canadian construction industry, you know things are changing. But listen, this isn't just another small shift. The entire playbook for how we design, manage, and build is getting a massive rewrite. So let's break down the new rules of the game for 2026.
And this quote from our source, Builders Canada, really hits the nail on the head. The key thing to get here is that we're not talking about a temporary trend or some quick fix. No, these are permanent, deep-rooted changes that are literally redefining the industry from the ground up.
So that leads to the big question, right? With all the old methods basically becoming obsolete, what does this new playbook actually look like? What are the strategies that are going to separate the firms that thrive from the ones that get left behind? Okay, to really get a handle on the new rules, we first have to understand why the old game just doesn't cut it anymore. The last few years have basically created a perfect storm of challenges, and it's forcing the entire industry to find a much more disciplined, much more predictable way of doing things.
I mean, just think about it for a second. You've got material costs that are all over the map, a constant labor shortage that makes scheduling a total nightmare, and on top of all that, regulations just keep getting tighter. The old way of just reacting and putting out fires, it's just not going to work anymore. The industry needs a new, proactive foundation.
So, let's jump into the first major pillar of this new playbook, technology. And we're not just talking about a few new apps here. We're talking about a fundamental shift, a move away from gut feelings and stacks of paperwork to a world of fully integrated, data-driven execution right there on the job site.
This comparison just lays it all out, doesn't it? We're leaving behind those clunky, siloed spreadsheets and moving to integrated cloud platforms where everybody, from the owner right down to the trades, is on the exact same page. Instead of just reacting to problems after they happen, AI is helping us see them coming. Communication isn't a broken game of telephone anymore, it's happening in real time.
And look, this isn't just some high-in-the-sky theory. The on-the-ground benefits are massive. We're talking faster turnarounds on critical documents, way better coordination between different teams, and here's the real game changer, the ability to spot a potential delay before it becomes a huge, costly problem. It's all about building smarter, not just harder. But you know, this tech revolution, it doesn't just stop at how we manage the project. The buildings themselves are changing. Owners don't just expect four walls and a roof anymore. They expect smart, connected buildings that can monitor everything from energy use to air quality. And that means builders have to be experts at weaving together all these complex systems right from day one.
This brings us to the second pillar, and honestly, this might be one of the most powerful shifts in the entire industry: sustainability. It's no longer just a nice-to-have marketing feature, some buzzword you put on a brochure. Nope, it is now a core issue of compliance.
Getting your permits, securing financing, even getting zoning approvals, all of that is now getting tied to how green your project is. You look at BC's super aggressive energy codes or Ontario's municipal standards, building green is no longer optional. It's basically the ticket you need to even get in the game.
And you really can't talk about sustainability in 2026 without understanding this term, embodied carbon. This isn't about the building's energy bills after it's up and running. This is about the carbon footprint of the materials themselves, the concrete, the steel, everything it took just to create them and get them to the site. So you can see the whole focus is shifting. The big priorities now are all about cutting that embodied carbon in the big materials, exploring cool alternatives like mass timber, and designing these incredibly efficient building envelopes that slash energy use. This is where design and construction have to be in perfect lockstep.
So, with data as the brain and sustainability as the conscience, what about the muscle? How are the actual physical building strategies evolving? Let's take a look at how firms are building smarter, faster, and of course, greener.
You know, for years, we've all heard the hype about full modular construction. But what's really gaining traction in Canada is a much more strategic approach: partial prefabrication. It gives you the efficiency of building things in a factory, but without sacrificing all your design flexibility. It really is the best of both worlds.
And in the real world, what that looks like is this. Instead of trucking in a whole finished apartment, contractors are using things like factory-built bathroom pods, pre-assembled mechanical systems, or even exterior walls that show up on site totally finished. It reduces the need for on-site labor and can seriously speed up the schedule. Okay, the next strategy is all about materials. Choosing what to build with used to be pretty simple, right? It was what's the cheapest and what can I get tomorrow? Well, those days are long gone. Now it's this incredibly complex, strategic decision with a ton of different factors at play.
It's a total balancing act. You've got to think about the carbon impact to meet all the new regulations. You have to worry about the supply chain to avoid killer delays, and you have to consider how fast something can be installed to deal with those labor shortages. Suddenly, every single material choice has these massive ripple effects on the schedule, the budget, and compliance.
And that leads us perfectly into the final strategy, the one that really ties this all together: labor. The skilled trade shortage isn't a surprise anymore, it's just a fact of life. So the most successful projects, they don't just cross their fingers and hope for the best. They bring the trades in early and literally design the project around the workforce they know they can get, right from day one.
So, what does this all add up to? When you put all these pieces together, you get a completely new blueprint for Canadian construction. It's not about working harder or faster in the old way. It's about working smarter, with more discipline and more foresight than ever before.
And this quote just captures the whole thing perfectly. The industry isn't hitting the brakes, it's professionalizing. It's finally adopting the kind of systematic, tech-driven, and coordinated way of working that we've seen in other major industries for years.
And that right there is the bottom line for everyone listening. It doesn't matter if you're a builder, an architect, or a developer. The real opportunity isn't in fighting this change, it's in mastering it. Success in 2026 and beyond is going to be defined by how well you embrace this new, disciplined playbook.
Which leaves us with one final question to chew on. As the process of building becomes this much more integrated, sustainable, and data-driven, how is that going to change the very nature of the buildings and ultimately the cities we all call home? It's a fascinating thought for the future.